I stepped onto the dock at Westport Marina. 3 weeks of Arizona sun still warm on my neck, and my slip was empty. Just water where my sea ray should have been floating. The dock girl with blue hair, her name tag said Harper, looked up from her clipboard. "Oh, Mr. Walter, your son-in-law came by last week. Had all the signed papers and title. Said you gifted it to him for his business ventures." She pulled out her phone and showed me a scanned document. "See? Your signature right there." My knees went soft. The sun felt like it was burning through my skull. I knew my own handwriting after 62 years of signing union contracts and overtime sheets. That signature wasn't mine. The loops were too tight, the W all wrong. Rick, my daughter's husband of 6 years, the one who always talked about leveraging connections and maximizing opportunities, had forged my name and stolen my boat. Not some stranger from the streets, family. The boat I'd named Patience after my late wife, bought with 41 years of breaking my back on oil rigs. I gripped the wooden railing to keep from falling. Harper's face went pale. "Mr. Walter? Should I call someone?" I whispered, "Where did he take my boat?"
Just before you continue to watch, please subscribe to this channel and like this video. It would encourage and help us keep creating amazing content for you. All right, back to the story.
I sat in my truck, staring at the empty water where Patience should have been tied up, the slip I'd paid for monthly, religiously for 3 years. My hands shook as I gripped the steering wheel. 41 years of 12-hour shifts in the Gulf of Mexico. 41 years of missed birthdays and Christmas mornings. All of it went into that boat. Every overtime hour, every hazard pay bonus, every drop of sweat in 100-degree heat on those platforms. Patience wasn't flashy. She was a 2018 Sea Ray Sundancer, 42 feet of white fiberglass and chrome that I'd bought used but kept perfect. I'd polished every inch myself, replaced her cushions with marine-grade leather, installed new electronics last spring. She was mine, bought and paid for with calluses and sacrifice. My late wife Patricia had picked the color scheme, navy and cream. "Like our wedding," she'd said from her hospital bed. "Promise me you'll name her something that matters." The rage started in my chest, hot and sharp. But underneath it was something worse, betrayal. Rick had looked me in the eye at Thanksgiving and complimented my boat maintenance, asked about fuel consumption, made jokes about borrowing the old girl someday. I reached across to my glove box and pulled out the small fire-safe key I always kept hidden under the manual. Back home, I opened the fire safe I kept bolted in my bedroom closet. Everything was there. Original title from the dealer, bill of sale showing $127,000 paid in full, the notarized transfer when I registered her in Washington, photos of the hull identification number. I spread them across my kitchen table like evidence at a crime scene. Then I pulled up the photo Harper had sent me of the forged document. The differences jumped out immediately. My real signature had a distinctive break in the middle E of Walter. The fake was one smooth motion. My real R's had sharp angles from years of drafting equipment logs. The fake R's were round and soft. But the worst part was seeing how Rick had tried to copy my style. He'd studied my writing, practiced it, then betrayed everything that signature had built. I compared the dates. The forgery was dated 2 weeks ago, when I was in Phoenix visiting my cousin Tommy, helping him recover from hip surgery. Rick knew I was gone. Megan had told him when I'd be back. They planned this around my absence. I opened my laptop and logged into my email. My stomach dropped. There were sent messages I'd never written. 3 emails to the marina sent while I was in Arizona. transferring ownership to my son-in-law Rick. Please update your records. All from my account. I whispered to the empty kitchen, "How did you get my password?" Harper met me at the marina office the next morning. She looked nervous, kept apologizing. "Mr. Walter, I should have called you, but he had papers and the emails matched and—" I held up my hand. "Not your fault, kid. Can you show me the security footage?" She pulled it up on the office computer. There was Rick, strutting down the dock in his designer sunglasses and pressed khakis. Behind him, a heavy-set man carried a briefcase. They stopped at the office window. The man pulled out a notary stamp and seal. Rick signed something, then the man stamped it. They were laughing. I could read Rick's lips. "The old man won't even know until I'm already selling it." Harper fast-forwarded to 20 minutes later. Rick at the helm of my boat, backing her out of the slip. The heavy-set man untying the dock lines. My boat, Patience, disappearing from frame as Rick drove her away like he'd owned her all his life. The timestamp showed 2:47 p.m. Tuesday, when I was sitting in a Phoenix hospital room reading Tommy a car magazine. I took a photo of the screen showing the notary stamp. The number was barely visible, but I could make out enough digits. Something about it looked wrong. In Washington, notary numbers have a specific format. "Harper," I said, "can you zoom in on that stamp?" I sat in my truck and dialed Big Carl's number from memory. Carl and I went back 30 years to the rigs off Louisiana. After the oil work dried up, he had started a repo business in Mississippi, then moved it to Seattle. He answered on the second ring. "Walter, heard you finally retired, you old bastard." "Carl, I need a favor. Not a small one." "Talk to me." I explained everything. The forgery, the theft, Rick's smugness on that security video. Carl listened without interrupting. When I finished, he asked, "You want cops involved?" I said, "No sirens. I want my boat back, and I want him to remember why stealing from family is a mistake." Carl chuckled, low and dangerous. "Clean and mean. I like it. Give me an hour to make some calls." While I waited, I scrolled through Facebook on my phone. I never posted much, but Megan had taught me how to look at other people's pages. I searched Rick's name. There it was, posted yesterday. Hosting exclusive networking event on my new yacht Friday night. Successful entrepreneurs only. Premium liquor provided. DM for marina location. My new yacht. The brass balls on this kid. My phone buzzed. Carl had sent me a screenshot of the same post. Below it, his text. "Want to crash a party?" That afternoon, I drove to the county title office. The clerk, a middle-aged woman with reading glasses on a chain, pulled up the records. "Let me place a fraud alert on this hull ID," she said, typing quickly. "This flags any attempt to transfer or sell. Nobody can move this boat legally until it's resolved." "How long does the flag last?" "Until you remove it or a court orders otherwise." She handed me a confirmation number. "Keep this safe." Next stop was my old mechanic, Dmitri, who'd serviced the boat since I bought her. "Someone stole Patience?" His thick Russian accent got thicker with anger. "Who is this man? I fix him good." "Easy, Dmitri. Just tell me about the ignition system." He thought for a moment. 2018 Sea Ray. Twin Mercuser 8.2 engines. Under helm, port side, small panel. Fuse number 7 controls the starter relay. Pull that, engines crank, but no start.
Also, he grinned, behind the breaker panel. Perfect spot for hiding things. Hollow space, 2 inches deep. I bought an AirTag at Best Buy on the way home. $30 to track my own property. In my garage, I found my old marine toolbox. The fuse puller was right where I'd left it.
That night, I sat at my kitchen table with everything laid out like surgery prep. Tomorrow, I'd walk onto my own boat like a thief. Except, I wasn't the thief here. Friday afternoon, 2 hours before Rick's networking event, I walked down the marina's far finger pier wearing a baseball cap and old work jacket. The boat was in visitor's slip 47, stern-tied with her bow facing out. Patience looked good. Rick had at least washed her, but I could see scratches on the gel coat where he'd bumped the dock. Amateur. I stepped aboard from the swim platform, quiet as fog. The salon door was unlocked. Rick's first mistake. The interior still smelled like the leather conditioner I'd used last month. My coffee mug sat in the holder where I'd left it. He hadn't even bothered to remove my personal items. Walking through my own boat felt like visiting a grave. Under the helm, I found the panel Dimitri described. Fuse 7 came out easy, small as a fingernail. Without it, the engines would crank and crank but never catch. I slipped it in my pocket. Then I opened the breaker panel and wedged the AirTag deep in the hollow space. It connected to my phone immediately. Now I'd always know where my boat was. I was replacing the panel cover when footsteps echoed on the dock. Heavy, confident steps. Then a voice that made my jaw clench. "Can I help you, sir?" Rick stood in the salon doorway, already holding a glass of whiskey. His networking event hadn't started, but he was pre-gaming. His face went through 3 expressions: confusion, recognition, then a smug smile that made me want to throw him overboard. "Walter, what a surprise! Where's your drink?" He actually laughed. "Come to admire the new ride?" I stood up slowly, keeping my hands visible and calm. From my jacket, I pulled out the manila folder I'd prepared. Original title, bill of sale, real notarized documents, photos comparing the signatures side by side. I dropped it on the galley counter. "You forged my signature. You stole from me." Rick's smile flickered, but held. "That's a serious accusation, Walter. I have paperwork showing you gifted." From a dead notary. I'd confirmed that the morning. The notary number belonged to a woman who died 13 months ago. The state keeps records, Rick. Every stamp, every number. His face went pale, then red. "You can't prove anything." I stepped closer. He smelled like cologne and fear sweat. "I don't need to prove it to you. I need you to understand something." I leaned in until we were inches apart. "You have 12 hours to get off my boat. After that, the offer changes." "You're threatening me?" "I'm giving you an option. 12 hours. I walked past him toward the door, then stopped. "Enjoy your party." I stepped off my boat and walked to a bench 50 yards away, just far enough to watch but not interfere. The party music started at 7, some garbage EDM that echoed across the water. Through the salon windows, I could see Rick holding court, gesturing with his whiskey glass, playing successful entrepreneur with my boat as a prop. Harper walked by on her evening rounds. She saw me and stopped. "Mr. Walter, everything okay?" "Just enjoying the sunset." She looked at the boat, then back at me. "I heard about what happened. Everyone at the marina is talking about it. That's messed up, stealing from family." I watched Rick through the windows, laughing at his own joke. Family's just a word to some people. By midnight, the party was winding down. Guests stumbled off the boat, calling Ubers, slapping Rick's back. He stood on the swim platform like a king dismissing his court. When the last guest left, he tried to start the engines to move the boat back to my slip. Better lighting there, he probably figured. The engines cranked and cranked and cranked, but nothing. The next morning came gray and cold. I arrived at the marina at 6, same time I always did when I owned a boat here. Rick was already there, on his phone, pacing the dock. The engines still wouldn't start. Rick's voice carried across the marina. "What do you mean you can't come until Monday? This is a $170,000 boat." He hung up and kicked the dock box. A couple walking their dog stopped to stare. Rick kicked it again, then grabbed a fender and hurled it into the water. "Everything okay there?" the man with the dog asked. "Mind your own business," Rick shouted. The couple pulled out their phones, started recording. Rick, too angry to notice, kept ranting. Piece of garbage boat, probably sabotaged. I'll sue this whole marina." More people gathered. Weekend morning at the marina met audiences. Someone from the fuel dock walked over. 2 liveaboards came out of their boats, all with phones up, all recording Rick having a complete meltdown over engines that wouldn't start. He called the marina incompetent, called the dock staff useless, called my beautiful patients a piece of trash. That's when the black SUV pulled up to the loading zone. Big Carl stepped out first, 6'4", 260 pounds, wearing a fleece vest that said Maritime Recovery Services. 2 younger guys followed carrying thick dock lines and industrial-looking chains. They walked down the dock like they owned it, straight toward the boat. Rick stopped mid-rant. "Who the hell are you?" Carl pulled out a laminated badge and a bright orange tag that read, "Hold, Title Dispute," in bold letters. He zip-tied it to the rail where everyone could see it. "Maritime Recovery. This vessel is under dispute. No one boards without owner authorization." "I'm the owner," Rick's voice cracked. "Not according to the title office." Carl wrapped a heavy chain around the bow cleat and locked it with a padlock the size of a sandwich. "The boat stays put until the paperwork is sorted." It wasn't a legal impound. Carl had no actual authority, but it looked official enough that the growing crowd believed it. Rick's face went from red to purple. He pulled out his phone, probably to call a lawyer, then stopped. What lawyer would take his call on Saturday morning? "This is harassment. I'll sue every one of you." Carl smiled. "Sue away, buddy. Get in line." That's when I heard her voice cutting through the crowd. Dad, what's going on?"
Megan pushed through the onlookers, still in her scrubs from a night shift at the hospital. Her hair was in a messy bun, her eyes darting between me, Rick, and the boat. She looked exhausted and confused and hurt. "Dad, please," she said, grabbing my arm. "Whatever this is, we can talk about it." I led Megan away from the crowd to a quiet spot by the harbor master's office. She was shaking, whether from cold or emotion, I couldn't tell. "Dad, Rick told me you gave him the boat. He showed me texts from your phone saying it was for tax purposes, that you needed to transfer assets. When did these texts come? 2 months ago? Maybe 3? She pulled out her phone, scrolling through messages. "Here, see? From your number." I read them. They sounded nothing like me. Transferring ownership for tax benefits. Please don't mention to Walter until paperwork is complete. This is a surprise for Rick's business launch. "Megan, I don't text like this. When have I ever said tax benefits?" Her face crumpled. I thought it was weird, but Rick said you were getting financial advice from his friend who's a CPA. "What friend?" "I never met him." She looked down. "Dad, there's more. $15,000 disappeared from our emergency fund last month. Rick said it was for boat maintenance and registration fees." My chest tightened. 15,000? He said you needed it for the transfer, that we'd get it back after the fiscal year. She was crying now. I'm so stupid. I knew something was wrong, but I wanted to believe him. "Show me the texts," I said, holding out my hand. "All of them."
Monday morning at the title office, the same clerk from before examined the documents. She had the fake signature up on one screen, my real signature on another. "Not even close," she said. "Look at the letter formation. Completely different muscle memory." "What about the notary?" She typed the number into her system. "Margaret Winters. Died 13 months ago. Her stamp was supposed to be destroyed." She looked up at me over her glasses. "This is criminal forgery, Mr. Walter. You need to file a police report." "I will, but first I need my boat legally clear." "I can freeze any transfer immediately, but if he tries to move it physically, haul it out, transport it, that gets complicated. Do you know his plans?" Megan had overheard Rick on the phone that morning. "He's trying to get it hauled out Friday for a cash sale. Someone from Portland." The clerk typed rapidly. I'm putting a priority flag on this. Nobody can transfer this title without you physically present with ID. She printed out a letter on official letterhead. This confirms ownership dispute. Show this to anyone who asks. How long until it's officially resolved? If he doesn't contests, 5 business days. If he does, could be months. He'll contest, I said. He's too proud not to. The clerk gave me a long look. Your son-in-law sounds like a real piece of work. Ex-son-in-law soon, Megan said quietly from beside me. Carl had a connection at the marina, a guy named Dennis who knew every boat broker and dealer in the Pacific Northwest. Rick's been shopping the boat around, asking $150 cash, quick sale, no survey needed. That's $40 grand under market, desperate. Any buyers? Nobody legit will touch it without clear title, but I know some guys who would, if you know what I mean. Carl smiled. What if one of those guys reached out, set up a meeting? You want to run a sting? I want Walter to get his boat back clean, and I want Rick to show his true colors in front of witnesses. Carl made a call. Within an hour, Rick had a text from a cash buyer willing to meet Friday afternoon at the marina. $150,000 in a briefcase, no questions asked. Rick responded immediately. Bring cash, slip 47, 2 p.m. He took the bait, Dennis said, showing us Rick's response. I looked at the text. He's really going to try to sell my boat for cash to a stranger? Criminals aren't smart, Walter. They're just confident. Friday was 3 days away. 3 days to set everything in place. I thought about Patricia, how disappointed she'd be in what our family had become, but also how she'd want me to stand up for myself. Make sure Harper has her phone ready, I told Carl. I want everything recorded. Friday came crisp and clear. I stood on the far pier in my good jacket, the one Patricia had bought me for our 40th anniversary. The manila folder felt solid in my hands. Title, ownership history, the letter from the title office, and blown-up comparisons of the signatures. Harbor Master Jim stood by a piling, pretending to check cleats, but really just watching. Harper had her phone ready. Carl's guys were in the parking lot. At 1:45, Rick showed up in a pressed polo and boat shoes, looking like he'd stepped out of a yacht club catalog. He actually whistled while he walked, checking his phone, probably calculating what he'd do with $150 grand. He stepped aboard my boat and started straightening cushions, arranging everything to look perfect for his buyer. At exactly 2 p.m., Dennis walked down the dock dressed like money, gold watch, designer sunglasses, carrying an expensive briefcase. Rick practically bounced out to greet him. "Beautiful boat," Dennis said loudly. "Papers in order." "Everything's perfect," Rick said. "Full documentation ready to transfer." That was my cue. I walked down the dock, steady and calm. Rick saw me when I was 20 feet away. His salesman smile froze, then melted. "Hello, Rick," I said, stepping aboard my own boat. "Mind if I join this transaction?" I walked past Rick to the helm, knelt down and opened the panel, held up the tiny fuse I'd pulled. Number 7, starter relay control. Then I reached behind the breaker panel and pulled out the AirTag, showing him my phone with the location history. "Every place you've taken her, every stop." Rick's mouth opened and closed like a fish. Dennis had stepped back, briefcase still in hand, watching the show. "You never had control," I told Rick, "not of the engines, not of the tile, not of the situation." I handed him the letter from the title office. "Transfer frozen, ownership under dispute. You can't sell what you don't own." Rick's hands shook as he read the letter. "You set me up. You stole from me. You forged my signature. You took $15,000 from my daughter. You thought I was just some stupid old rigger who'd roll over." I stepped closer. 41 years on oil platforms teaches you about pressure, Rick, when to apply it, when to release it. Right now, you're about 10,000 psi and climbing." Dennis cleared his throat. "I think I'll be going." He walked off, taking his briefcase prop. Rick grabbed my sleeve, his fingers digging in. "You can't do this to me." Harbor Master Jim stepped aboard. "Hands off, sir." Security arrived, 2 young guys who gently but firmly pulled Rick away. Megan had been watching from the dock. She walked up slowly, her face hard to read. "Rick, did you call me leverage in your texts to your bunny Marcus?" Rick went white. "Baby, I can explain." Megan held up her phone, showing a text thread. "Marcus sent me screenshots. You called me leverage to get to my dad's money. You said marrying me was a strategic investment. 6 years, Rick, 6 years I defended you to my family. Megan, please."
She pulled off her wedding ring, the one Patricia had worn for 43 years, that I'd given her for Rick to propose with, and pressed it into my palm. "Keep this safe, Dad. It belongs in better hands." Rick reached for her, but she stepped back. "Don't. We're done." "You can't just— This is all his fault," Rick pointed at me. "He poisoned you against me." "You poisoned yourself," Megan said. "Dad just handed you the glass." The crowd was getting bigger. Weekend at the marina meant everyone watched everything. Someone was live streaming. Harper had her phone up, getting every word. Rick looked around at all the faces, all the cameras, and for the first time seemed to understand how deep a hole he'd dug. "What do you want?" he asked me. I pulled out a single sheet of paper from my folder. "Sign this confession. Return the $15,000 to Megan. Sign a no-contact order. Walk away clean." "And if I don't?" "Then we do this the hard way. Police, courts, lawyers. Your employer finds out. Your networking buddies find out. Everyone finds out." "Dad," Megan said quietly, "what do we do now?" Rick read the confession, a simple statement admitting the forgery and theft. His jaw worked like he was chewing glass. "This is extortion." "This is a gift," I said. "Take it or leave it." He looked at the crowd, at the phone's recording, at Megan's cold face. His whole constructed image was crumbling. The successful entrepreneur, the connected businessman, the guy with the yacht. All of it falling apart in real time, broadcast to anyone who cared to watch. "What do you want?" he asked me. I pulled out a single sheet of paper from my folder. "Sign this confession. Return the $15,000 to Megan. Sign a no-contact order. Walk away clean." "And if I don't?" "Then we do this the hard way. Police, courts, lawyers. Your employer finds out. Your networking buddies find out. Everyone finds out." "Dad," Megan said quietly, "what do we do now?" Rick read the confession. His signature was shaky, nothing like the confident loops he'd used to forge mine. He pulled out his phone and transferred $15,000 to Megan right there. She showed me the confirmation. "The no-contact order?" He signed that too, then stood up, looked me in the eye with pure hatred. "You ruined everything. You ruined yourself. I just held up the mirror." He walked off the boat, tried to maintain some dignity as he pushed through the crowd. Someone laughed. Someone else called him a thief. By the time he reached the parking lot, he was almost running. Rick spit at my feet as he passed, then said something under his breath about old men and their time being over. "Make me," he said louder, turning back. That's when I knew he'd be back. Guys like Rick couldn't take the loss. Their egos wouldn't let them. So I wasn't surprised when Carl called me at 12:47 a.m. "Your boy's at the marina with a duffel bag and tools." I was already dressed, had been sitting in my kitchen, drinking coffee and waiting. On my way. When I arrived, Carl had the floodlights on from his truck, lighting up Rick like a stage show.
He was on the boat with a socket wrench, trying to unbolt the GPS system. Probably figured he'd take what he could, sell it, get some money back. He froze in the light like a deer. I walked down the dock and stood in the salon doorway. "Put the wrench down, Rick." He spun around, wrench raised like a weapon. "Get away from me. You're on my boat, stealing my equipment, violating a no-contact order you signed 6 hours ago." I held up my phone, recording everything. "Put the wrench down." He looked at the wrench in his hand like he'd forgotten it was there. Then at the GPS mount he'd have destroyed trying to remove it. The reality hit him. He'd gone from white-collar forgery to breaking and entering with a weapon. Rick dropped the wrench. It clanged on the deck. Then he bolted for the swim step, trying to run. Carl's guys were waiting at the dock gate. Rick bounced off one of them like he'd hit a wall. They didn't grab him, didn't need to. He fell backward onto the dock, scrambled to his feet, looked around wild-eyed for another exit. There wasn't one, just water on 3 sides and us blocking the 4th. "This ends now," I told him. Rick laughed, high and manic. "Or what? You'll have me arrested? Go ahead. I'll tell them everything. How you entrapped me, set me up, humiliated me." "Okay." I pulled out my phone and dialed 911. "I'd like to report a breaking and entering in progress at Westport Marina." Rick's face went from manic to scared. Wait, don't." I gave the dispatcher the details while Rick stood there, surrounded but not touched, finally understanding that I wasn't bluffing, never had been. When I hung up, I called Megan. "He's at the boat with tools, tried to steal equipment. Cops are coming." Her voice was tired, but not surprised. "I'll get his things packed. He can pick them up from the porch. Stay at my place tonight." "Already here, Dad. Already here." A patrol car pulled into the marina 10 minutes later. 2 officers, both young, both professional. They looked at the scene, Rick with the duffel bag of tools, the damaged GPS mount, and the signed no-contact order I showed them. "Sir, you're going to need to come with us." I had to give a statement at the station. The detective, an older woman named Rodriguez, looked at all my documentation, the forged signature, the fake emails, the dead notary's stamp, and the confession Rick had signed. "Mr. Walter, why didn't you come to us immediately?" Wanted to see if family could work it out. She gave me a look that said she'd heard that before. "And the 15,000? He returned it. Have the transfer confirmation. "The no-contact order? Violated within 6 hours. She shook her head. "Your son-in-law's got problems." "Ex-son-in-law. My daughter's filing papers Monday."
Rick was charged with fraud, theft by deception, identity theft, and breaking and entering. The prosecutor, reading through everything, added attempted brand theft for the boat itself. Looking at 3 to 5 if convicted, probably plead out for 2. When I got home, Megan was asleep on my couch. I covered her with Patricia's Afghan, the one she'd crocheted during her chemo treatments. On my kitchen table, Megan had left a folder. "Dad, found this in Rick's office. You need to see it. M." Inside were practice sheets of my signature, photocopies of my driver's license, bank statements he'd somehow gotten, and worst of all, draft applications for lines of credit against my house.
The folder made my blood cold. Rick hadn't just stolen my boat. He'd been planning to take everything. The practice signatures went back months. Some were terrible, but they got better over time. He'd been patient, methodical. The credit applications were partially filled out. He'd been waiting for the right moment. I called my bank at 7 a.m. when they opened, locked everything down, changed every password, put fraud alerts on my credit, moved most of my money to a new account Rick had never seen. The banker, hearing my story, suggested a full security review. "We see this more than you'd think," she said. "Family members are the worst because they have access." Megan woke up while I was on the phone. She made coffee, moving around my kitchen like she had when she was young, before Rick, before the complications. When I hung up, she sat across from me. "I found more," she said quietly. Emails to yacht brokers from before he took the boat. He'd been planning this since January. Also found searches for how to forge signatures in his browser history. "Why didn't you leave him earlier?" She stared into her coffee. "Same reason you kept paying their bills, Dad. Hope that family meant something." My phone lit up. Unknown number. I let it go to voicemail. When I played it back, a woman's voice, shrill and angry. "This is Amanda Morrison, Richard's mother. You've destroyed my son's career and reputation over a misunderstanding. I demand you drop these ridiculous charges." I called the number back. Amanda answered on the first ring, already talking. "Walter, you need to understand that Richard comes from a good family. This criminal nonsense will ruin his future. Surely we can work out some financial arrangement. Your son forged my signature, stole my boat, and tried to take out credit lines against my house. Richard explained that was a misunderstanding about gift tax strategies." I pulled up the audio recording I'd made of Rick at the marina. His voice came through clear. "Yachting is my stress reliever." Then calling Megan leverage. Silence on the other end. "Your son is a con artist, Amanda, and you enabled him by never making him face consequences." I hung up and blocked her number. The calls kept coming. Rick's brother, his college roommate, some business partner threatening to sue me for damaging Rick's reputation. I blocked them all. But I kept recordings of every threat, every attempt at manipulation. My lawyer, yes, I had one now, said it was good evidence of Rick's pattern. Megan got served with divorce papers at the hospital. Rick was contesting everything, claiming assets that didn't exist, demanding alimony, claiming emotional distress. The delusion was complete. "Later," Megan said. "I've got nothing he can take." Court date was set for 6 weeks out. The criminal charges for the boat, the civil dispute for the divorce. Rick was going to have an expensive spring. The courtroom was smaller than I had expected. Wood paneling that needed updating, fluorescent lights that hummed. Rick sat at the defendant's table in a suit that didn't fit right anymore. He'd lost weight. His lawyer, a public defender who looked tired, shuffled papers. The prosecutor laid it out clean. The forged signature, blown up on a screen, the dead notary stamp, the security video of Rick saying, "The old man won't even know," the emails from my account sent while I was in Arizona, the signed confession, the violated no-contact order, the break-in with tools. Rick's lawyer tried to argue gifting confusion, family miscommunication, mental distress from marital problems. The judge, a stern woman in her 60s, wasn't buying it. "Mr. Morrison, you systematically planned and executed identity theft and fraud against a family member. You stole a boat worth over $100,000. When caught, you signed confession, then immediately violated a no-contact order to commit break-in and entering. What exactly is confusing about that?" Rick stood up. "Your Honor, if I could explain." "Sit down, Mr. Morrison." In the end, Rick pled guilty to fraud and attempted theft. 2 years probation, restitution for the damaged GPS, and a permanent no-contact order. No jail time if he kept clean. The judge called it generous, considering the evidence. As we left, I stopped at the clerk's window. "The boat title, is it clear now?" She typed into her computer. "Free and clear, Mr. Walter. Would you like a certified copy?" "Yes, please." Back at the marina, I stood on my boat with the new title in my hand. The GPS mount had been repaired. The scratches buffed out. She looked like herself again. But Patience didn't fit anymore. That name belonged to a different time, when I believed family meant something sacred. Harper helped me peel off the old letters. They came away clean, leaving ghost outlines on the fiberglass. What are you going to call her, Mr. Walter? Revenant, I said. It means the one who came back. That's dark, Mr. Walter. Sometimes dark fits. Megan met me that afternoon. Her divorce was final. Rick hadn't shown up to contest. She looked lighter somehow, like she'd dropped weight she didn't know she'd been carrying. We took Revenant out for a slow cruise around the Sound. The engines purred smooth. The water was calm. I told her as we watched the sunset from the flybridge, "Trust is earned, and my lines don't move. You cross 'em once, you don't get back over." "I know, Dad," she said. "I just learned that from you. Took me longer to apply it." She stayed for dinner on the boat. We cooked on the galley stove, told stories about Patricia, didn't mention Rick once. When she left, she hugged me longer than she had in years. Now when people ask about my boat's name, I tell them straight. Used to belong to someone else. He forged papers to steal her. I took her back. If you ever meet a man who forged an old man's name for a yacht, ask him why he hates the word revenant.
If you enjoyed this story, make sure to like this video, comment, and smash the subscribe button. Also, check out other videos on the channel. We've got more interesting stories for you.